Joining me now is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Mayor Frey, thank you so much for taking the time this evening. I know this has been an incredibly difficult day, and many of us nowhere near Minneapolis are reeling, have been reeling. I have been personally reeling all day from what we've seen and what we've heard. So let me start by asking you, I know you've been spending a lot of times with the victims' families today and people who've been impacted in the community. How are you doing, and how is your community doing this evening?
Look, we've all got our professional titles in life, but the title that means the most to me is husband and dad, and I know I'm not unique. We should be thinking about these victims not just as somebody else's kids, but think of them as if they were your own. How would you feel? What would you be going through? Every parent should have the assurance and the confidence that they can kiss their kid goodbye, put on their headband, shove them some applesauce, and leave for school or church or daycare without the fear that they wouldn't come home. And the fact that these families are going through so much is horrific. I know that there is an entire Minneapolis family that is behind them. They're standing up, they're wrapping their arms around them, and whether it's the teachers or the faculty at Annunciation that quite literally were heroes and they saved lives by the actions they took, or it was our police and our law enforcement that ran towards the danger when the rest of us would have probably run in the other direction. There are incredible people that are standing up for these families that are in, their worst moments of their entire lives.
I think you have to be missing an empathy connection, not to feel connected to the human beings. I have kids who are 7 and 10. My mother-in-law is a retired Catholic school teacher. I've been thinking about these teachers and administrators and these kids who saw this today and experienced it. How is the community around the school doing? What are they sharing with you in the time you've spent with them today?
They're horrified. I mean, these kids should be able to go to school and learn math together and play outside at recess and laugh and mess around and maybe even get in a little bit of trouble at the cafeteria. This is not what anybody should expect or deal with in the first week of school. And of course, thoughts and prayers. Fine, great, yeah, I believe in prayer. These kids were literally praying, though. Mm-hmm. And so we have to do a whole hell of a lot more than that right now. Words are not enough. I mean, how many times have you talked to mayors and probably politicians from around the country who have talked about an unspeakable tragic event and this kind of thing should never happen again? I've probably said it myself today. That's not good enough. It can't happen again. We got to act so that it won't happen again, and yet it does.
What does that look like? I mean, you know well, obviously, from being a mayor for some time in Minneapolis, that there are gun laws in Minnesota that other states don't have, but there are some things that could still be done. Is that something that you hope people in the legislature have a will to do at this point in time?
We have more guns in America than people. Mm-hmm. Say it again. We have more guns in America than people. Why? Why is it so easy to get a gun? Why is it so easy to get a whole heap ton of guns? Why is it that you can buy a gun virtually every month if you wanted to? What good is that? We're not talking about your father's hunting rifle. We're talking about people that have gotten guns that seemingly, in this case, legally, that obviously have a whole ton of mental health issues. You're not right in the head if you're going to a church to shoot it up. You're not right in the head. But the fact that you have guns, in fact, many, many guns, why is that okay? You know, this has gone down in other countries, and they say, you know what, we're not going to allow this anymore. We don't want this to happen anymore. We're going to do something about it. It's got to be out of love for our kids. A common kind of humanity that you understand how deeply I love my little girls. I've got a almost 5-year-old, 4 3/4, she'd tell you. Mm-hmm. And I've got a 3-week-old. And I many times today have thought about the last things that I have said to her before she went into school. And, you shove these things off as, maybe even an annoyance. Get out the door, put on your shoes, let's go, here's your headband, come on. But there's also a beauty to it in that I love her so dearly, and I want her to be able to experience a school and her life safely. That's not too much to ask. And the fact that we've seen these things happen again and again throughout our country, what it tells me is maybe we're not seeing these kids as our own. And so that's my ask to people. Don't think about these as just somebody else's kids. Think about them as if they were your own. And then maybe we would have the opportunity to actually act to truly make it not happen again.
I have been thinking about them as my own all day, as I know many people watching have been thinking about them as their own. It's so fresh here. It's just happened this morning, and there has already been sort of some effort, which I think is so sick and disgusting, to weaponize some of the details, even if we don't know a lot at this point in time. And obviously the law enforcement in your city have been keeping people abreast, including details about the individual possibly being trans, about the individual possibly having negative things to say about Trump, about some things that have been on the weapons. A lot of this is just very early reporting. What do you do as a leader of your city to prevent details from being weaponized and using this to blame something other than the guns?
First off, anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize trans people has completely lost touch with a common humanity. Operate not off of hate for any community. Operate off of love for our kids. Kids died today. This should be about protecting our children. This should be about loving our children. And far too often, I feel like people will think of the conclusion that they want to get to, and then they'll reverse manufacture the facts that they want to hear to get to that end point. We should be standing up for our Catholic community, by the way, right now, because this is a Catholic church. We should be standing up for kids and churches and schools and all that. Let's love each other. The antidote to hate is not more hate. The antidote to hate and cowardice, which clearly this shooter had, is not more hate. Hurt people hurt people. The antidote is love. The antidote is standing up for our neighbor, no matter who they are. That's where we need to get to right now. And so, this whole effort to villainize a community, this is not about a community that did this. A community didn't do this. A person did this. And that was a horrific act, and we should all be saying that out loud. And we should all be loving each other more.
You may have just answered my question, but I know I've heard from a lot of friends and family and viewers today about people who watched this tragedy, watched you speaking out today. We're sort of grateful to you for saying it stopped tweeting things like thoughts and prayers, which I felt the same way. What do you say to people out there who want to do something to combat gun violence, share the concern you have about the number of guns in this country, but feel helpless in moments like this? They don't know what to do or where to start.
Yeah. I mean, thoughts and prayers, these kids were literally praying. They were in the pews of a church. And look, people benefit greatly from prayer. There are people that experience, a deep transformation from it, and I don't want to undermine that one bit. And at the same time, we can do a whole lot more than that. I'm a mayor. I fill potholes. We try to put up more affordable housing. We try to keep people safe. So I'm not an expert on every statutory section of gun law throughout the country. What I do know is that we have too many of them. What I do know is that they can come into cities around our country by the trunkload. What I do know is this particular individual had a whole ton of guns. And in most places, you can buy guns, virtually as many of them as you want, as much as you want. You can buy them, apparently, even if you've got some severe mental health disorders that might see you commit a horrific act like happened today. Why are we okay with that collectively? Why are we okay with the danger that that could potentially pose to our children, to your children? Why are we not standing up and saying, hang on a second, we care more deeply about our children than we do about some sort of political gain. This is not about politics. This is about kids. This is about your kids. All of us should be doing more here.
That's exactly what it is about. What people should also know is that activism and voices and talking about all of these kids as human beings is powerful and impactful, and that's what makes change happen. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, I know you have had a horrific day. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being here with us and for speaking out so forcefully. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.